Yo, what's good, folks? It's your boy reporting straight from the 90s. And as most of you already know, when it comes to gaming consoles, PlayStation came through in the 90s and set the tone. You fire up that gray box, that logo pops, and your whole day is different. These games had us all glued to the TV, controllers in hand, arguing with your partners about whose turn it was. This was when the cases were stacked next to the TV like trophies, when a scratched disc felt like the end of the world until you put some rubbing alcohol on it or used your breath and your shirt to wipe it for that good old classic placebo effect. This was back when you had to save up for a memory card. Otherwise, you were tempted to leave the game on overnight so you didn't lose your progress. Today, we giving y'all the games that defined the PlayStation era, games that pushed everything forward and still hold weight to this day. So be sure to like and subscribe and get your controllers ready, cause it's time to play. When Metal Gear Solid dropped, that joint felt like a movie that you controlled. The stealth, the tension, the way that the Kodak beat made you feel like you were in a real operation. Even if in reality, your ass was in the basement eating Doritos and pizza bagels. You gotta admit, Hideo Kojima cooked up something serious. Snake wasn't some loud action hero. He was quiet, precise, he felt right.
Hey, men aren't allowed in here.
I had no idea you were so feminine.
This is no time to try and hit on me, Snake.
In those boss fights, come on, dawg. Psycho Mantis reading your memory card, having to swap your controller port to beat him? Legendary. Real next level-ish right there. No bull.
Why, I am the most powerful practitioner of psychokinesis and telepathy in the world. No, there's no need for words, Snake. I'm Psycho Mantis. That's right. This is no trick. It's true power.
The game taught you how to be patient. It taught you that sneaking somebody was better than going loud, that using a cardboard box could be your best move, and that a game could tell a story so deep you'd actually care about the characters like they were real people. The graphics might look blocky now, but back then, we thought we were in a straight-up virtual reality type of dimension. The soundtrack was cold, and those cinematic cutscenes unmatched for its time.
Who's that?
Plain and simple, Metal Gear Solid shifted how people saw what games could be, just like our next game. Final Fantasy VII. If you were around back then, you already know. The day this game hit, it took over entire friend groups. Folks who didn't even mess with RPGs were suddenly pulling all-nighters trying to level up, getting smoked by random encounters like an op on the street, and talking about materia like it was real jewelry. We was really on some other stuff back then, bruh, I swear. You had Cloud with that big-ass Buster Sword, you had Sephiroth stepping in with the coldest villain energy, and that moment with Aerith, man. You really just had to be there. For a lot of people, this was the first time a game actually hit them emotionally. It was more than grinding levels or beating bosses. It was about the story, the characters, the music that stuck in your head, and of course, those cutscenes. Graphically, it was wild for its time. Them blocky arms didn't matter, because when those FMVs came in, your jaw dropped. The scale of that world felt endless, with Midgard's dark streets, open fields, and Chocobo racing, and hitting bosses like Emerald Weapon, waiting to clap your squad if you pulled up unprepared. And let's be real, this game put JRPGs on the map in America in a major way. It was a cultural moment, and even people who never finished it remember seeing that black case on the shelf feeling like it was a rite of passage to at least try. But this one game, certified sleepover classic, lights off, volume up, and that first zombie turning its head slowly while you're stuck with a pistol and 5 bullets. Pure fear. You and your homies screaming but trying to act tough. Resident Evil 2 was the best kind of nightmare fuel. It took what the first game did and turned it all the way up. Bigger map with the Raccoon City Police Department feeling like a maze you actually wanted to get lost in, even though you were terrified of what was around the corner. Leon and Claire became instant staples, and that liquor crawling on the ceiling for the first time, soon as you walked under it, it probably gave you PTSD. The puzzles made you feel like you were cracking codes in a horror movie. But let's keep it a buck though. Sometimes you were just guessing and hoping you didn't get your head taken off by a zombie you didn't hear coming. Pre-rendered backgrounds were clean. The fixed camera angles added to the tension, and the sound design was different to say the least. Every footstep echoed like it was your last. This game brought survival horror into the mainstream, heavy, and it was one of those games that made people who didn't even game like that sit down and watch you play because it felt like a horror film unfolding in real time. Resident Evil scared you, scarred you, and made you appreciate the thrill of being low on ammo, low on health, and still pushing forward, because quitting wasn't an option. Now, when it comes to the racing game genre, this next game is a true pioneer, Gran Turismo 2. This was the game that had you thinking you knew something about cars just because you tuned up a Supra at age 12. There was no Forza or open world racing games back then. Gran Turismo 2 was the garage dream. It hit different because it wasn't just about picking the fastest whip and smashing gas. You had to earn your licenses, tweak your gear ratios, and understand why certain tires mattered on different tracks. It taught patience and precision, and when you finally beat that one race you kept failing, it felt like you accomplished something serious. The car list was stacked. Over 600 cars, from Japanese imports to American muscle to European exotics, letting you live out every Fast and Furious dream before you even saw the movie. The tracks were detailed for the time. And the graphics, paired with the engine sounds, made it feel like you were really out there shaking and baking, word to Ricky Bobby. Gran Turismo 2 was one of those games that made PlayStation feel like it was catering to grown folks as well, while still being fun for the younger heads who just wanted to race and crash without learning what a limited slip differential did. This game created a new generation of car enthusiasts and made PlayStation the console for racing fans worldwide. Now let's talk about the good old fighting genre. If you had a PlayStation back in the 90s, Tekken III was a must, period. This was the game that had the homies pulling up just to run sets. You'd be sitting cross-legged, controller wire tangled, talking trash while trying to hit that perfect juggle combo before your cousin smoked you. The roster was deep, bringing in new faces like Jin Kazama and even Eddie Gordo, who had everybody button mashing thinking they were cold with it, me especially. Then you had OGs like King, Law, and Nina still holding it down. The fighting mechanics on this joint was clean. The sidestep mechanic made the fights feel real layered, and once you got nice, you could dodge and counter like it was second nature. Graphically, it was crisp, especially for its time. The arenas were vibrant, and the character models felt alive, with those intros and win animations that gave every fighter real personality.
Jin Kadama, wind. Jin Kadama, wind.
And that soundtrack, straight heat. Every stage had a vibe that made you feel like you were stepping into a martial arts movie. What made Tekken 3 special wasn't just the depth of the serious characters, it was the fact that anybody could pick it up and have fun. Button mashers and combo kings could both eat. It was the perfect party game and a serious fighting game rolled into one, and it turned a casual player into a fighting game fan for life. This next one is an ode to the video game that gave a lot of adolescent boys their first digital crush. Shouts out to my boo Lara Croft. Tomb Raider hit the streets in 1996 and definitely turned heads. Lara Croft became an instant icon, one of those characters that people knew even if they never touched a controller. Facts. Tomb Raider gave you that exploration on a different level. You weren't just running around shooting, you were solving puzzles, pushing blocks, climbing ledges, and swimming through hidden caves and pulling levers, all while dodging boulders and taking out wolves or T-Rexes that popped up out of nowhere. It had that eerie quietness in the levels too, with the sound of Lara's boots echoing while you scoped the whole next move. And when the music did kick in, you knew something was about to go down. It made you slow down, think, and figure out what was next instead of just running and gunning. Graphically, for its time, Tomb Raider looked wild. Those big open spaces and hidden caverns felt endless back then, and it had that sense of adventure that made you want to keep exploring just to see what was around the next corner. Lara's moveset was a big deal too, with her flips, swimming, and precise jumps making you feel like you were actually controlling an adventurer instead of a stiff block. This joint was about action and vibe. Tomb Raider made you feel like an explorer, and it showed the world that games could bring cinema-level adventure into your living room. Now, Resident Evil 2 was one thing.
Play Silent Hill. You may never leave your room again for PlayStation from coming.
But Silent Hill, that was beyond scary. That was a creepy in your bones type of scary. That was the game that had you leaving the lights on while you played, jumping up every time your controller vibrated, feeling uneasy even after you turned it off. It pulled up with that foggy town you could barely see through, the broken radio crackling when something was nearby, and that soundtrack was mad unsettling, yo. This joint was more about tension than jump scares. The weird noises in the distance and the feeling that something was always watching made the player stay alert the whole time. You played as Harry Mason, searching for his missing daughter, and the deeper you got, the weirder and darker everything became. Those twisted nurses, the messed up creatures crawling at you, and that otherworldly shift in the environment that made Silent Hill feel like a nightmare you couldn't wake up from. The puzzles were wild too, forcing you to slow down and pay attention even when you wanted to sprint past everything just to get out alive. And those camera angles, super wild. 1 second, you're looking from above. The next, you're in a tight hallway with the camera right behind you while feeling claustrophobic as hell. Silent Hill pushed the PlayStation into psychological horror territory, proving that fear wasn't just about monsters, but about atmosphere, tension, and your own imagination running wild. While most folks knew Diablo from PC, when it hit PlayStation, it brought that dungeon crawling addiction straight to the couch. This was the game that had you up at 3 a.m., looting every chest, checking every wall for secret rooms, and going, just one more run until the sun came up. You step in, you pick your class, and before you knew it, you're deep in the catacombs fighting off skeletons, demons, and bigger bosses waiting to smoke you if you slipped up even a little bit.
Come closer, morsel. I smell your terror, and I hunger.
The vibe was dark, heavy, and grim, with that eerie soundtrack and the sound of steel clashing echoing through the dungeon halls. What hit hardest about Diablo was the loot grind. Every drop felt like it might be the one to change your whole build, and that rush kept you locked in. Plus, co-op with a homie? Different. Sitting side by side, taking on waves of enemies, divvying up potions, and arguing over who had the better gear. It made it one of those games you would lose a whole weekend to without even realizing it. Graphically, it was gritty, and on PS1, it ran smoother than you'd think for such a deep game. The isometric view, the spells lighting up the darkness, the tension when your health was low and you were a room away from a stairway down, it all added to that feeling that you were really in it. Diablo brought PlayStation a taste of hardcore dungeon crawling and loot hunting, locking in players who wanted that deep, dark, grind-heavy gameplay, and the series is still expanded to this day. And it's a wrap. Today, we just walked you through some of the heaviest hitters that built PlayStation's legacy in the 90s. Games that didn't just fill time, they made memories. Late nights, sleepovers, arguments with the homies over who's next, controllers passed around, and that feeling of seeing something you never seen before on your TV. These games turned a gray box into a whole world. They pushed gaming forward, created lifelong fans, and gave us moments we still remember when we hear that PS1 startup sound. And that's just the start. Next up, in part 2, we're tapping into the games that brought vibes, the ones that built culture and brought the fun in a different way. So if you're rocking with this, hit that like, drop a comment with your PS1 memories, and make sure you're locked in for part 2, dropping soon. Because we ain't done. Our memory cards ain't even close to halfway full, so get ready.